Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of Insert Disc 2. I'm Amigo Aaron. This is the boat. Say hi, boat.
Hello.
So, wanted to get back into City of Heroes one last time because there have been, since our previous episode aired, there have been a lot of interesting goings-on, boat. Now, just a brief synopsis in case you didn't catch the last little Insert Disc 2, and you should go check it out if you get a chance. City of Heroes, massively multiplayer online game, had been abruptly ended by the people that supported NC Soft out of Korea. They decided to focus more on their businesses over there and left a bunch of fans high and dry, devoted fans. And we just recently, in the past 2 weeks ago, found out that a few fans, a very, very few, had somehow managed to keep a private version of COH running on a server that they only had access to for 6 years. And the cat was out of the bag. And when we last spoke, the cat had just popped out of the bag, and there was a big feud going on about what was going to happen now. And why can't we have access to the server? We want access. Why can't the code be released? Well, some interesting things have happened in the past week. And the night we recorded that, I went home, and sure enough, someone had started a public private server that we could all get on, and I actually got to play City of Heroes the first time in 6 or 7 years.
Was it awesome?
It was laggy, it was jacked up, but it was awesome. I played for about a minute of time before I got kicked off and the server got reset, and that's the way it's pretty much was that whole weekend. But I did get to play Sunday with my buddies for about 3 hours on a test server known as Bree, and this was great. And we all had a good time. It was just like the old days. We were all making our characters. And what had been planned by the community was that this test server would be wiped, and on the 27th of this month, which is April 2019, a permanent server would be put up so everyone could play.
That's tomorrow.
Okay, well, guess what? The guy running the server received an anonymous email that stated that NC Soft was scrambling the lawyers, scramble, and they were going to shut this sucker down. And in a panic, he messily wiped the whole server, gone. So we went from having COH to not having it. The community went bananas, of course, as you can imagine, because they had a taste. All it took was a taste, and they had you. So it turns out hilariously that this was a fraud. This was not NC Soft contacting the guy. Someone was just screwing with him. And this guy.
In the grand tradition of the internet.
Oh, yes. And the grand tradition of the internet continues unabated, as I'll get into. So once this was found out, everyone determined, okay, we have no server now. What are we going to do? So one thing we talked about on the last show is that the code for City of Heroes had not been released, right? Well, the code was finally released just a few days ago to everyone that wants it. You can go torrent it somewhere and get it now. So in the interim of when the last server went down, the new one went up. It took a little while, but they put up another server. And this server was free for everyone, and it was loaded 24/7. They were talking about how the numbers, like you'd have 3,600 people playing at a time with another 5,000 or 6,000 waiting in queue. It was crazy. And it made the servers be laggy because these guys were continuously adding hardware to keep up with the demand of all these people that wanted to play the game. An interesting thing that's happened, though, is that now that the code is out, the community has sort of begun to splinter a little bit. And so you've got the Reddit community. They have a COH server going up. Okay, then you've got sort of what you'd call the Discord/Facebook community. They've got a server going up. And then you've got the 4chan community. Now, not to be outdone, they had to get in on this, and apparently they've got something cooking. Just before I came over here, I saw a message pop up that said, please do not antagonize or irritate the 4chan people. They're good people as long as they don't break the rules, but they don't screw with them. All right. So, but anyway, so you've got 2 or 3 sets of people screwing around, putting up a big server. I've hung out a lot on Discord this week to hear what was going on. And one thing I've noticed is that there's been the administrative people in these various builds have came and gone like the breeze in the night. They anger somebody, they're gone. Some guy made a racist comment, he's gone. You know, one guy just got sick of it, he's gone, and they were replaced. And so it's like hot potato management for these people. There's no structure. This is true anarchy. It's the damnedest thing I ever saw, Boat. watching these people come and go, and then watching the reaction of the every man that are in there. And one thing I've learned is almost everyone hates everything all the time. And it's I mentioned this when we did our ARG show, that the City of Heroes community had a rep for being real nice people, a lot of solidarity. This last week has done them no favors. Mm-hmm. There are just as many scumbags and jerks in that community. Now, maybe they just showed up, but there's a lot of them. And so I've seen a lot of the nicer people trying to keep these jerks at bay, but it's difficult because you know how jerks are in Boat. They have a way of getting in there. I've watched the development of these servers. They're building. You can play them. I've played last night for a couple hours. We had a good time. But the problem is you don't know when they're going to be gone. You don't know who runs them, and you don't know when they're going to wipe your character out. You have no idea what's going on. That is the third piece of this little entry, which is I have a friend who has actually successfully installed the software on his server and now has the ability to let us log into his machine and play. So the question, I've got a few things I want to ask you about this. Number one, what do you think about playing a game like this where you're the only 5 people in the entire world? Is this something does it matter? Because normally when I play, we don't interact with anyone else. Mm-hmm. Would that matter to you? You played a little bit.
So to me, as sort of a not a hardcore MMO person, the only people that I normally care about are the people that I know in real life.
Right.
And so if you can suddenly magically excise all of the people whose seemingly only purpose for their existence is to cause you grief, that can only be a good thing. The only time where I think you might run into trouble is if the developers decided to put something in there where you needed to group up with more than the number of friends that you have.
Which
on that
does exist. There are plenty of epic battles that you require a ton of people.
Yeah.
So you would be basically excluded from doing those.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a private server like my buddy has, you maybe get 20 people in their max before it starts bogging it down. I've been back and forth on this because I was playing last night by myself for a while, and when I got into trouble, people would come up and help me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as I sort of knocked the community, but really most people are pretty nice, mm-hmm. and I think when they get in the game, it does good things for them. It makes them feel like more heroic.
Part of the M in MMO is massive,
right?
And there is something to be said for. I remember when I first started playing WoW. It was amazing to me that when you teleport in for the first time and you see it seems like 1,000 people around it, those are all actual real people.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for that for sure. It's always a balance, and I think that it's all about mitigating the amount of harm that the jerks can do to the overall experience of the people playing the game.
Generally, people in COH are always real nice, which is probably where that reputation came from. And the forums have always been pretty civil. One thing I wonder though is as this thing breaks up into if we have a big Facebook Discord channel version of this, and then you've got a Reddit version, you've got 4 or 5 big servers. Is that going to split the community to the point where effectively bringing the game back will kill the community?
Well, I think what will happen is the cream will rise to the top. I think that of all these warring servers, there will be one that will be the most solid in terms of connection speed and not dropping people and kicking people off, and that will be the one that people gravitate towards in the end.
These are all also there's the matter of paying for these,
mm-hmm.
which will have to be addressed at some point. Right now they're saying please send no one any money. I suspect that at some point someone's going to try to at least get their costs paid, if not make a few pennies on the side.
Well, if somebody can come out and say, listen, this is what I've got. This is how I can guarantee that you're going to have the best experience possible playing this game. Yeah. This is why you should send me a couple bucks a month. I think people would be happy to do that.
Absolutely. One thing I want to mention before we close it up is there's another fellow that I found this interesting. Is a fellow named, I think it's Tony V. I don't know his name. That's his board name. He is in negotiations with NCSoft to open a public free server with their blessing. And I don't know what in negotiation means.
We don't really know that he's actually in negotiation.
Right. This is what they say.
This is what he said.
And oh, by the way, he's got a server. His gang is putting something up. The code came out this week, and we had guessed on the last episode if if the people that were in charge of this were going to release this or not, and they did release it. If you're in CSoft, is there any reason to bother with this at all now? I mean, effectively, if anyone can download this code, it makes any sort of peace you would make with them sort of moot, doesn't it?
Yeah, if I was in CSoft, unless they have some kind of plan to bring this back in the long term, I would just kind of, as a gesture of goodwill, I would do what the EverQuest folks did and say, listen, this thing is yours now. Take it and do with it what you will.
Well, I don't really have a choice in the matter. And
yeah, well, I mean, they don't, but them saying that would engender goodwill.
Sure. Just in closing, because I think going forward, this story was pretty much, I mean, it's been a tumultuous week with a lot of ups and downs and people quitting and coming and going. But you can that's sort of the churn you would expect with a project like this. Mm-hmm. And I'll give credit to the people that are putting it together, and they're putting together a full wiki and how-tos and how to install this. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to do, at least some of the communities trying to do this the right way. And like I said, most communities are going to have probably a relatively small percentage of loudmouth idiot jerks, and this one's no different. And people had their reason to be mad, and I understand why, but hopefully they'll all get past it. You played this game this week. You told me. Now, had you ever played this before? I can't remember. What did you think of the game?
Well, I built sort of a samurai character.
Right. Sort of based on yourself.
Yeah. And I went. I was dropped in the middle of the city, the main city, and I ventured forth and I found some bad guys, and the bad guys killed me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I was playing wrong or what happened, but. I didn't have a great experience going forth because I didn't really receive much direction.
Let me ask you, did you play the tutorial or did you just go right into battle?
Right into battle.
So what have we learned, Boat?
I never played the tutorial.
And what happened, Boat?
I'm an awful human being.
Try again. Don't give up, Boat, because we'd like to have you. I can say I played last night with it's already my buddy's kids. That's how old they've gotten, and my buddy Dale. And we sat down and played last night, and we got on TeamSpeak, and it was absolutely glorious. I had nothing but fun. I mean, I'm not embarrassed to say that I teared up a little bit getting in there. I mean, it seems ludicrous. And I tried to explain this to my buddy at work, because he thinks I'm an idiot for going on about this.
Well, he's listening to Easy Rock Paradise all day.
Well, I do. I like Easy Rock Paradise, but I mean, it was very moving to go back, and it was every bit as fun as I remembered it. We remembered a lot of the maps. We remember the tactics. It's a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, having the game back is glorious. And it really, if you don't, once all this stuff stabilizes, you don't have to care anymore, because it's an interesting tale. Mm-hmm. The rise and fall, and rise of City of Heroes. But at the end of the day, when we have a couple different quality servers that stay online that you can play on, that's really what matters. And it makes it worth all the baloney. And I'm looking forward to having something stable where I can call it home and play it as much as I want. Maybe it'll be my private server. Maybe it'll be the one of the public servers, but I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully I'll get you on there. We'll have a good time, because it's a lot better if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, man.
It's sort of like life in general.
Yeah.
So someday maybe I'll figure that part out. So anyway, COH, look it up and give it a shot. We'll see you next time.